Good morning, everyone. We're going to take off today where we left off yesterday. And I'm going to start out by pinning the there we go, the link. If you want to look at this link, pull it up and do your own research, you can do that. This is the information that I'm reviewing, and it's very interesting. It's very informative. But this is the link, and I do have it pinned in chat. I also have the link pinned in chat. If you would like to come up and join me on the panel, it is an open panel. You're more than welcome to come up and join me. And I'm asking that you please be respectful with your comments and chat. And we'll wait just a few minutes and see if anybody comes in. And I do have a puppy. And I was saying yesterday that on my live stream, I had to take him into the veterinarian for his last puppy shots. And he's a little sore this morning, so we're going to see how he does. Hopefully he'll do okay. Right now he's got something that he's munching on. He's in his little bed, so we'll see how it goes. So a little bit of a recap about yesterday. Let me go ahead and share this. Now, when I share this, let's see. Let's see if we're sharing. There we go. Now, this is what we're going over. This is the use of psychics in homicide and missing persons investigation. William S. Smithy. And this is what we were covering yesterday. So if you'd like to go back through and look at yesterday's live, you can do that. So basically what this is doing is showing how studies have been done in a controlled environment using psychics, and were psychics actually used, and were they accurate? So it has some examples that I went over yesterday, and they're all very informative. And it actually, here's a research into psychics by law enforcement and when the research began and what their findings were. Now, this is all things that I went over yesterday. And this is the result of the controlled test that they had done using 3 psychics and 3 students, university students, and the results. All this I covered yesterday. So we're going to go down here to method. That's where we're beginning today. So let me go ahead and turn my camera on. Good morning. So there's a reason that I'm doing this, and I'm doing this for educational purposes. I'm doing reviews on actual studies that have been done and what the results were. And I'd like for you to join me if you would like to come up on panel. It's an open panel. You're more than welcome to come up, but if you do come up, please remember that whenever I'm on panel, this is my opinions and my opinions only. And if you do click the link in the chat to come up on panel, I just ask that you please state that this is in your opinion only. So this is something that we really should look into because of social media and the number of social media psychics that are coming on social media, and they are doing readings, tarot card readings. Some are doing dowsing rods and different methods, remote viewing. And they're basically inserting themselves and involving themselves in oftentimes an open investigation of a missing child or missing person. So that's why I'm doing this. I want to show you my research, what I'm basing my actual views and opinions on. I'm not trying to be rude in any way. There are, in my opinion, of course, again, my opinion, I do believe that there are psychics that do have true gifts. And I do believe that those psychics use them for good. And then I do believe that there are a lot of self-proclaimed psychics that often tend to insert themselves into investigations of high-profile missing persons or high-profile homicide cases. And unfortunately, a lot of these are still active. So it's my personal opinion that by them doing that, if they're not just following the facts and the facts only, which have been released by law enforcement to the public, then a lot of false information and false accusations tend to come out. And more times than not, these psychics already are biased. They have already made up their mind what they feel this case, where this case is going. So it's their readings. If you watch, their readings all go toward their own, in almost all cases, their own bias opinion. So after I get done with all of these, now I did a live on the dowsing rods and psychics using dowsing rods. You can go back and look at that one. And it was called When Is Enough Enough? That was the live title. And I have dowsing rods. I've had dowsing rods for several years now. And I was showing my dowsing rods and how dowsing rods are supposed to be used. So you can go back and look at that live. It's called When Is Enough Enough? Because you're seeing psychics now come out even using dowsing rods in active cases. And in my opinion, they're using these basically for yes and no questions. And then they're also inserting into this that they are psychics. They're using their dowsing rods and they're speaking to a spirit that has entered the room. And like I stated in that live, Whenever you're stating that you're sitting in your room and that there is a spirit talking to you in your room, then you are in the paranormal ballpark. And that is my backyard. This is why I'm reviewing what I'm reviewing and putting forth the information that I have researched. And now we're going to review some of that information. I did part 1 yesterday. It's a little lengthy. This is a very, very good document. And like I said, I put the link in the chat. You can go pull up the link for this particular document for the research that I'm reviewing. And then you can understand where my opinion is coming from both research and personal experience. When you have a field like the paranormal that I do, you're often going to encounter psychics. And just because someone comes to you and says, I'm a psychic and I think I can help, I'm not just going to bring someone in because they say they're a psychic. I'm going to vet that psychic. I want documentation. I want their credentials. I want everything that I can pull up on this person. Have they worked cases? How did they perform during their help in a case? Did they insert themselves into the case, or was they brought in by law enforcement? Because normally if a psychic is brought in, law enforcement will reach out to the psychic. The psychic does not reach out to law enforcement. Now, in my research, I do believe that there are psychics that do have gifts, 100%. And I also believe that there's a lot of people that claim to be a psychic, but that does not make them a psychic. So this is why I'm covering this. And as social media begins to grow more and more, you are seeing so many platforms on YouTube, which is a free app, that are coming on, and they are self-proclaimed, in my opinion, self-proclaimed psychics. And they are inserting themselves into both active investigations of missing persons and active investigations into homicide. So this is why I'm doing this research, to help bring some actual test results. Now these are done by multiple groups. This is done by law enforcement agencies. This is done by controlled group settings. And yesterday I went over a lot of the controlled group settings. And in the one particular setting, they had 3 psychics, and then they chose 3 students from a university. I think it was from the psychology department, if I'm not mistaken. And whenever they went through their testing, it gave the results of the controlled group testing. So in my opinion, of course, this is my own personal opinion, if a psychic is going to come on and say that they are a psychic, they really need to list their credentials so they can be researched. Who have they worked with? What cases have they worked with? What was their accuracy? Where is the documentation on this accuracy? Because in my opinion, unless there's credentials and unless you are vetted, I personally would not use you in any investigation that I would be doing. So that's why I'm touching on this briefly. And then I'll continue to do some more lives of research that I've done, watching different videos on the social media. And this is my question I asked yesterday, whenever I was doing my live, and I'm going to ask again today. What do you think? Do you think that a psychic who is inserting themselves in an open, active investigation of a missing person or a homicide because they have a platform on YouTube and they are monetized and they are looking for high rating, high clicks, high views because they want a high profile case, because they know that they can make money from this. This is their bread and butter. So the more videos and the more clicks and views that they get, the more money they are making off a tragedy. If a child goes missing, or a teenager, adult, any person goes missing, it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy for that person, for their family, and like I stated yesterday, eventually for the community. And in my personal opinion, I do not think that it is or that it should be used. A tragedy should be used, any tragedy, for your own monetary gain, for clicks, view, and profit. So that's why I'm doing this, and I'm taking you through why I feel this way. Now, this is my own personal opinion. Later on, I will go through and I will do some reviews. But when I go through to do reviews on psychics, I want to show you why I have this opinion. I'm not saying that all psychics are fake. I 100% do believe that there are true psychics. There are real people that do have real gifts, that do use them for good. And then I also believe, in my opinion, and allegedly, and all the things that YouTube wants me to say, I do believe that there are self-proclaimed psychics that use a tragedy for monetary gain. And in my opinion, I think that's disrespectful to the victim. It's disrespectful to the family. And it's disrespectful to their loved ones. And I personally cannot wait to see new laws that will regulate social media platforms so that people cannot profit off of a tragedy of a missing person or in a homicide. I really feel, in my opinion only, that if you're going to follow a case, that is good. That's fine. But you need to follow the facts. Follow the facts that law enforcement puts out there. Because if you were a true psychic working with law enforcement, as I went through yesterday in part 1, these psychics only want the facts when they're working with law enforcement. And then they take those facts and then they see what they can do to help law enforcement to find answers. And law enforcement is the one that has reached out to them and asked them for their help through references that they've had, through work that they've maybe done with the previous law enforcement agency, or through tests and through vetting that this person has went through that has given them credibility enough for the law enforcement agencies to reach out to them. So now this is my own personal opinion, and allegedly, and all these good things we say on YouTube. I'm not trying to come out and be mean, because I'm not a mean person, but I am a blunt person, and I present the facts. So we're going to go ahead and go into the next section, which will be part 2 We'll go ahead and share my screen. Again, this is the link. This is what I am reviewing. This is where I have gotten my information. And I think it's a very, very good document. It goes through so many different aspects of using psychics in missing persons cases and homicide cases. And then I'm going to ask you that if you do come up, you're more than welcome to come up on panel. I have a link in my chat. You can come up and join me if you want to interact. I will ask you to be respectful. We will not tolerate any hate whatsoever on this channel. My channel is not about hate. My channel is about bringing forth facts, bringing forth proof, evidence in my field, which is the paranormal. And whenever you go into the psychic realm, you are touching into the paranormal. So that's why I'm covering this. So at this time, I'm going to turn my camera off. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And we're going to start where we left off yesterday. Okay, and this goes into the method. In April and May of 2012, research was conducted to further evaluate the use and effectiveness of psychics in homicide and or missing persons investigation. A survey was created utilizing the website www.surveymonkey.com, inquiring about the solicitation and use of psychics by law enforcement agencies throughout the nation. The survey was sent via mail to all graduates of the Federal Bureau of Investigations Academy, all of whom are senior executives of various law enforcement agencies throughout the United States and other parts of the world. Each graduate was asked to forward the survey to his or her respective homicide major crimes unit for completion. The survey was also sent via email to all members of the Homicide Research Working Group, HRWC, and the FBI's Behavioral Science Unit. The HRWC is an interdisciplinary and international organization comprised of law enforcement practitioners, and academic researchers committed to improving the means, collection, and analysis of homicide data in order to reduce levels of mortality from violence. And this is the link, homicideworkinggroup.cos.ucf.edu /index.php. The FBI's Behavioral Science Unit is comprised of supervisory special agents and veteran police officers with advanced degrees in behavioral science, disciplines of psychology, criminology, sociology, and conflict resolution. HTTP at www.fbi.gov/about-us-training/US BSU, along with teaching various subjects at the FBI Academy. The Behavioral Science Unit, a unit often featured in movies and television shows for the practice of profiling, regularly conducts research into the development of new and innovative investigative techniques. At the conclusion of the survey, follow-up in-person interviews were conducted with experienced homicide investigators in the Central Florida area. Interviewees possesses decades of experience in the investigative field and worked numerous high-profile investigations throughout the career. During the course of these investigations, interviewees have had the opportunity to utilize and follow up on information provided by psychic detectives. Here's the results. The survey was successfully completed by 102 respondents throughout the law enforcement community. The first two questions concerned minor biographical information of the respondent. Question one simply cured the respondents' gender within 8.9%, indicating that they were female, and 92 indicating that they were male. 91.1, one respondent did not answer the question. Question two asked the respondents to identify how many years of law enforcement experience he or she possessed. Only one respondent, 1%, indicated 5 years or less of law enforcement experience. 8 respondents, 7.9%, noted between 6 and 10 years of experience within 12. 11.9 noted 11 to 15 years of experience. 20 respondents, 19.8, indicated they possessed between 16 and 20 years of experience. And 60 respondents, 59.4, stated they had possessed 21 years or more law enforcement experience. One respondent did not answer to the question. The responses to this question indicate a large portion of the respondents possess significant law enforcement credentials and have been in the career field for long enough for them to form an educated opinion regarding the use of psychic detectives in homicide and missing persons investigations. I'm still trying to get over my cold, sorry. Let me take a drink. Question 3 asked the respondent if he or she had ever solicited the use of a psychic in a homicide or missing person investigation. All 102 answered the question with 28.4 indicating they had solicited the assistance of a psychic, while 71.6% indicated they have never personally solicited in the assistance of a psychic detective. Results would indicate the use of psychic detectives by law enforcement personnel is not as prevalent as the mainstream media would have the general public believe. Question 4 acted as a direct follow-up to question 3. Of the 29 respondents who stated they have personally solicited the use of a psychic in a homicide or missing person investigation, 26.9%, stated they found the information to be helpful or instrumental in solving the case. 19 of the respondents, 73.1, advised the information was not helpful, and 3 of the 20 respondents did not answer the question. Question 5 queried whether or not the respondent's accuracy had ever solicited the use of psychic in homicide or missing person investigation. 30 respondents, 30.3%, advised their agency has solicited the use of a psychic at some point, while 69 respondents, 69.7%, advised their agency has not. Response again shows the use of psychic detectives is not prevalent as media coverage of major cases would have people believe. 3 respondents did not answer to the question. Question 6 serves as a direct follow-up to question 5. Of the respondents who answered in the affirmative 7, 22.6% found the information provided by the psychic to be helpful, while 77.4%, did not. A slight discrepancy can be noted related to the question, as 30 respondents advised their agency had solicited the use of a psychic, question 5, yet 31 respondents answered the follow-up question regarding the value of the information provided by the psychic detective, question 6. Question 7 asked the respondent if he or she had ever followed up on the information provided by the psychic in a homicide or missing person investigation. Of 98 respondents who answered the question, 43.9% advised they had, with 55, which is 56.1%, advising they had not followed up on the aforementioned type of information. Responses in the area are considerably higher than the responses regarding personnel or agency solicitation, indicating most information obtained from psychic detectives is not solicited by law enforcement entities, but provided by psychics of their own accord. Question 8 acted as a direct follow-up to question 7. Of the 43 respondents who answered question 7, only 5 of them, 11.4%, found the information provided by the psychic to be helpful or instrumental in solving the case, while 39, 88.6, did not find the provided information to be helpful. It should be noted that there is a slight discrepancy in comparison to the question 7, as 44 respondents answered question 8, while only 43 respondents in the affirmative responded in the affirmative to the question 7. Sorry, lost my place for a minute. Question 9 inquired of each respondent if their agency had ever followed up on information provided by a psychic, even if the respondent was not personally involved. 48.5% stated their agency has followed up on information provided by a psychic during a homicide or missing person investigation, while 20 respondents, 20.2%, state they had not. 3 respondents skipped the question, and 31.3%, advised they did not know if their agency had followed up on such information. Question 10 serves as a direct follow-up to question 9. Of the 48 respondents who advised their agency had followed up on the information provided by a psychic, even they were not personally involved. Only 7, 14.6%, advised the information was useful to bringing the case to a resolution. 41 of the respondents, 85.4%, stated the information was not useful, while 54 respondents skipped the question. Question 11 asked each respondent if they had any firsthand knowledge of a psychic detective ever solving a homicide or missing person a missing persons investigation. The question was answered by 96 of the 102 respondents. Of the 96 who answered, only 5.2%, advised that they had first-hand knowledge of a psychic detective successfully bringing a homicide or missing person investigation to a successful conclusion. 94.8% of the respondents advised they had no first-hand knowledge of a psychic detective bringing a case to a positive resolution. That's very interesting. Again, of the 96 who answered, only 5.2% advised they had first-hand knowledge of a psychic detective fully bringing a homicide or missing person investigation to a successful conclusion. 94.8% of the respondents advised they had no firsthand knowledge of a psychic detective bringing a case to a positive solution. Big difference there. Look at those percentages. Question 12 asked the respondents if they had ever known a psychic detective to be helpful in solving a case, even if it was not firsthand knowledge. The results were not significantly different than question 11. Only 6.3, only 6.3 advised they had knowledge of a psychic detective bringing a homicide or missing person case to a successful conclusion, while 89 respondents, 93.7%, had no knowledge of a psychic detective ever being successful. Question 13 served as a direct follow-up to question 4. Respondents then asked if they recommended the solicitation of a psychic detective to assist with investigations. 95 of the 102 respondents answered the question, with 21.1% recommending the solicitation of a psychic to offer assistance. 7 respondents skipped the question, and 75 with 78.9% did not recommend the solicitation of a psychic detective. The survey's final question asked each respondent if he or she recommended the use of resources to follow up on information obtained by a psychic, even if the information was not solicited. It should be noted, unsolicited assistance is the most common scenario during a high-profile investigation that receives a fair amount of media coverage. 95 of the 102 respondents answered the question with 51.6% recommending the use of resources to follow up on information provided by a psychic's results. Psychic results obviously seem high when compared to question 11, where only 5.2% of the respondents had any firsthand knowledge of the psychic having any type of success. Possible reasons for this discrepancy will be discussed later. The survey also provided each respondent with the opportunity to leave comments about opinions and past experiences with psychic detectives. Some of the comments are listed below. You have to follow up on any information given during a homicide, whether it is solicited or not. All leads should be reviewed and followed up on. Some psychics may interview family and friends of the victim to give the appearance they know more about the given case. Don't believe in any use of psychics. Never, ever in a million years would I use that crap. I find it utterly ridiculous. Now I'm reading right off of this. This was their opinions. You should not discourage any information or disregard any information obtained in a homicide or missing person investigation. I do not know if I could justify spending much agency money to hire a psychic detective, but any additional information could be helpful and should be considered until the source is funded or until the source is found to be totally unreliable. My experience with their unsolicited information is that they gather a good deal of readily available information from media and www and have even contacted principals, parents, and survivors. I've found that some are skilled interviewers using all the information, coming up with a story based somewhat in fact, with information they couldn't possibly have known. That is broad enough that it can sound credible, cannot be confirmed, And when the case is solved, they claim they can say they provided factual information that law enforcement already had anyway. I have found a couple to skilled at manipulating the media as well, hence the necessity to follow up on information obtained from from a psychic detective. We had a missing person and a local psychic was recommended. We used her because we were willing to try any and all tinja available. We were advised to check large wooded areas. After searching that area for days, we had no results. But it was worth the try, and at least we were able to tell the family we tried every possible avenue during our investigation. Psychic provided detailed information of the whereabouts of a missing / homicide victim. We didn't find the body at the time, but when it was located, it was exactly as described by the psychic. There is no empirical evidence that a psychic has ever assisted police in a homicide or missing persons case. I was an FBI profiler in the behavioral analysis unit, and I have worked on thousands of homicide cases around the country and the world. I have never seen any useful information provided by psychics in those cases where the agency or family had solicited their help prior to our involvement. The use of psychics is the last resort of desperate agencies. It also telegraphs to the public and the offender that the police have absolutely no leads of value. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop there. Okay, so that was a lot of information in that, and basically there was a lot of surveys sent out to law enforcement agencies. There was a lot of the agency personnel that did complete the surveys. There was a result of the surveys. It showed the percentage. And this is why I'm bringing this up. As you're seeing throughout this whole entire document, they will solicit a psychic based on their credentials, based on their past involvement with other agencies and their accuracy. And I personally do feel, this is my own opinion, and even with reading this document, law enforcement will try to use everything they can, every tool they have, every resource they have available, and then they will reach out for other agencies to help them to find answers, both in missing persons cases and homicide cases, active and cold cases, both. So I'm not here to completely discredit every psychic. I have stated in my live before, and in several of my lives, I do believe there are people that do truly have gifts. Now, I'm having my cigarette this morning and my coffee. Maybe get you a cup of coffee and join me this morning. If you want to come up and join me, you're more than welcome to. I put the link in my chat. So maybe now you can see why I'm addressing this and why I'm doing this review the way I'm doing this review of Psychics. I'm not doing this in any way, shape, or form to send out hate. Do I get upset whenever I see certain things? Yes, I do. And then I have to look at the source. You know, who's putting this out? Why are they putting it out? Are they doing this for their own profit? Are they putting out just facts and sticking to the facts? Or are they biased? They've already made up their minds, so no matter what their readings are, whether it's remote reading or whether it's supposedly talking to a quote unquote spirit in your room, or through tarot cards or dowsing rods. In my opinion, and this is my personal opinion, if you follow a case, be respectful. You have to remember this is a real person that is missing, a real family that is going through a tragedy. And then these families eventually become the victim as well as the missing person who is the victim. And their loved ones become a victim. And social media has such a high percentage of rumors and theories and false information and false accusations that gets added into these cases. And then people take this as fact. It's not fact unless law enforcement has brought it out as facts and they've released it to the public. It's not a fact. And if you are not following the facts, in my personal opinion, I feel that you're doing harm. You're hurting this case. If people are hearing all these false information and false accusations and rumors, then false leads get called into law enforcement agencies who are working very, very hard to find answers for a case, an active case. And then these agencies, these law enforcement agencies, are spending time and resources, money, on information that has been called in as facts whenever it was not an actual fact. That puppy's getting up a little bit there this morning. Let me see if he'll come up and lay on my lap. Do you want to come up on mommy's lap? The poor little fella had his last puppy shots yesterday, so he's feeling a little bit sore. Do you want to say hi to everybody? Say hi. Say my mommy's new baby, and I just don't feel good this morning. Say my name is Ryder. Get you down so you can go over my down. So, in my opinion, please be careful whenever you have a platform and you're putting information out. I only want to put out facts. And I do follow crime. I'm not true crime in any way, shape, or form. And it's very sad to see what happens in these high profile cases. You know, whenever psychics come on, and most of them that I've been watching and the ones that I will be reviewing are biased. They have already made up their mind. They're not actually following the facts. So no matter what kind of reading they're doing, like I said, whether it's a tarot card reading or a remote reading or a dowsing rods, which I think that is, in my opinion, dowsing rods should be used for what dowsing rods were created to be used for. They were basically created to find water or copper rods, or they are a wooden branch. They still use the wooden branch. And there's also been glass dowsing rods that have been accepted. And they've used them for many years to find water underground, to find minerals underground, for gold prospecting, for wires, hidden wires underground. So the dowsing rods are a very good tool, but every tool is only as good as the person using it. So, in my opinion, would I use dowsing rods in a active missing persons case or an active homicide case using yes and no answers? Absolutely not. To me, it's horrifying to see this. It's disrespectful, in my opinion, to see this. These are real people. These are real cases. These are real families and loved ones that are already going through the biggest tragedy in their life. And the last thing that they need is false hope and misleading information, false accusations. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty. And that's a fact. Okay, I turn my camera off. We're going to go back and continue where we left off. Like I said, excuse me if I'm coughing. I'll watch your chats on my phone because whenever I'm sharing the screen, the way I'm doing this particular screen share, I can't see your comments on the screen, but I turn my phone on so I can follow and I can see your chats. Again, please be respectful in the chat. All comments are welcome. However, be respectful. I will not tolerate any hate in this, on my channel, on my platform. I just plain and simply will not allow it. Okay, now let's continue on. In addition to the survey, interviewers were conducted with current and former law enforcement professionals who had the opportunity to work with or utilize information provided by psychic detectives. Oh, wait a minute. Where was I? Yeah, psychic detectives during homicide and missing person investigations. The first interview was conducted with Detective Michael, I hope I say this right, Morshi of Orlando Police Department. Detective Morshi, hope I'm saying that right, has worked with the Orlando Police Department for 22 years and has served in the homicide unit for the past 6 years. During his tenure in the homicide unit, he has had the opportunity to work extensively on some of the most high-profile missing person cases in the past few years. The disappearance of Jennifer Keyes and Michelle Parker. Detective Morshi, and I hope I'm saying that right. If I'm not, please forgive me, stated OPD received over 1,000 tips in relation to the Kelsey case and over 800 related to the Parker investigation. Of these tips, it is hard to determine the actual amount received from psychics. Many stated they were psychics outreach and or outright women. Many stated they were psychics outright and offered to assist in the investigation in any way possible, while some were believed to be from psychics simply based on the vagueness of tip. Of the more than 1,800 tips received between the two investigations, only 10% provided specific enough information for law enforcement to further investigate. All tips provided by the identified psychics proved unfruitful or too vague to even further investigate. Detective Morrissey stated he spoke with Michelle Parker's family early in the investigation, and one of her family members informed him that she was a believer in the use of psychics to obtain additional information. He informed the family member he was not a believer in psychic ability and has never known a psychic to be of value to an investigation. In fact, they more often than not sidetrack investigations and waste valuable time and resources. However, he assured the family any tips that contain specific and detailed information would be further investigated regardless of the source of the information. This policy effectively eliminated the use of resources to follow up on tips provided by psychic detectives, since the majority of psychic information is very vague and does not contain specific detailed information. In high-profile homicide and missing person investigations, psychics are generally entertained simply because of media relations. Agencies are fearful of friends and family members of the victim reaching out to the news media and claiming everything possible is not being done. Detective Morrissey advised the scenario was not of great concern to OPD, since media coverage had made it apparent that hundreds of officers were assisting with the investigation. OPD believed media attention of this type would reflect more negatively can't even talk this morning, on the family than the department. So it did not become a major topic of conversation. They do not want that negativity on the family members. An interview was also conducted with investigator Robert Janes of the Seminole County Sheriff's Office. Investigator Janes has 32 years of law enforcement experience with 26 years experience investigating homicides. In addition to his standard duties in the major crimes unit, he currently serves as a coordinator of the agency's 37 cold case homicides. And an experienced homicide investigator, Investigator James has had numerous occasions to work with psychic detectives or follow up on information provided by psychics. In every instant, the results were less than impressive. Not only did the psychics not provide any useful information, but they routinely distracted and hampered the investigators. Investigator James relayed a story regarding a high-profile missing person investigation conducted by the Seminole County Sheriff's Office approximately 10 years ago. The missing person's mother, a devout believer in psychics, insisted the agency utilize a psychic service to help her find her son. When the agency did not hire a psychic, she provided one of her own and demanded resources to be appropriated for further investigate tips supplied by the psychic. In order to substantiate these claims, at least one investigator has given the family and their psychic for around-the-clock support. Before the investigation was complete, at least 100 man-hours had been spent with no positive results to show. No positive results to show. The missing person was eventually located in a retention pond less than 1 mile from the family's home and counties away from where the psychic was allocating resources. An interview was also conducted with Dr. James, I hope this is right, Sewell, former chief of the police of the Gulfport, Florida Police Department, and former assistant commissioner of the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. Dr. Sewell received the survey via email and wished to pass along an experience in which he had the opportunity to deal with the psychic during a high-profile investigation. The investigation is to this day one of the most famous in Florida's history. The attack of 4 co-eds at the Chi Omega sorority house at Florida State University in Tallahassee, as well as another co-ed approximately 8 blocks away in January of 1978. The investigation would eventually lead to one of the history's most famous serial killers, Ted Bundy. I think we're all familiar with that, or most of us. If you're not, please go research Ted Bundy, aka the co-ed killer. As in most cases, wait a minute. Sorry, I skipped one. Dr. Sewell was employed by the Florida State University Police Department at the time and served as an important participant during the investigation. He advised the investigators received numerous tips from psychics, all of which were too vague to further investigate or simply not in conjunction with the facts of the case. However, investigators began to receive information from a psychic in South Florida that contained specific information related to the case, information that was not released to the media and could not have been found or could not have been known by the general public. As in most cases, the source of the psychic's information had a more prolific explanation. Further investigation related to the South Florida psychic's best friend was a resident of Tallahassee and was currently involved in a relationship with a number of the investigative team. Once the link was established and a problem addressed, all psychic tips of potential value ceased. Dr. Sewell advised he has heard of I hope I'm saying this right, ancestral evidence to support the use of psychics in investigations, but has no firsthand knowledge. Excuse me a minute, let me take a drink. I definitely need coffee this morning. Or knows of any empirical evidence to support their success. He further stated it is very difficult for law enforcement agency to establish a policy and or procedure regarding their use during investigations. The decision on whether or not to utilize their service or to what degree to utilize their service will largely be a case-by-case basis dependent on the agency's relationship with the victim's family, the agency's relationship with the media, and the current political climate of the area. While he believes it is not always feasible to establish a set policy, he concurs with the Orlando Police Department's policy regarding specific information. Dr. Shewell advised utilizing resources to focus on specific claims and leads is a more efficient use of valuable resources and is more likely to produce positive results. Okay, so now, as you're seeing throughout all of this research that I did, I'm not doing this to be biased. Everything that I'm bringing forth in this particular, this document is both pro and con, good and bad. It is always, all the way through this article, all from beginning to end, it's showing, have psychics been used in missing persons cases and in homicide cases? But it also then goes farther to investigate the accuracy of using a psychic in an open investigation in a missing person or a homicide investigation. So this is showing you that I am not biased. I'm showing no bias here, none. Because I do believe that there is psychics that do have true gifts. And I do believe they use them for good. I also do believe that there is so-called psychics, self-proclaimed psychics, that, as we just read, can cause more disruption in a case, more false hopes for the family, more resources, so many resources, man hours, and money being allocated to follow these leads. And it's showing that most of them are so vague that they are not useful. And you can go back to yesterday's live and then look at what we did there, what we covered there, and then today's just a continuance from that. So am I saying that all psychics are fake? No. Am I putting hate out on my channel? No, I'm not. I'm saying do your research. Please do your research. If I got to a point in a case, if I was investigating, say, a paranormal case, and I'm doing my research, first of all, I'm going to do all the research that I can possibly do on this case, because I want to be as informed as I can be. And then I'm going to use all of my resources, which would be the history that I have researched, all of the equipment that I have that's been tried and proven. And then when I go in to do an investigation, I want to know as much about the family. If it's a family that calls me in, I want to know, I want to talk with them, interview them, and then take everything that I have and try to help this family find answers. Because normally whenever a person like me is called in, it's because a family or someone is experiencing something they cannot explain, and they need help. So they're reaching out for answers, and they're reaching out for help. And I think that if you're going to go out and you're going to help someone, first of all, you need to be respectful. You need to follow facts. You do not want to give them false hope. You do not want to give them rumors or theories. You want to do as thorough as an investigation as you can. Follow your facts, follow your evidence, and then present all of this to the person that has reached out for help. And it's the same thing when it comes to missing person investigations, homicide investigations. These and all of these agencies are going with facts. They are following every fact. They are doing a thorough investigation. They're doing interviews. They are using every resource available to them, and then reaching out to other agencies, because they cannot find answers based on rumors, and facts is the only way to solve any case. Facts, not rumors, not theories, not false information, false accusations. Law enforcement must follow the facts in order to solve any case. So that's why I'm reviewing this, and it is lengthy. So we're going ahead and go back in. Turn the camera back off. We go back in, we'll share where we left off. Okay. Now this is 15 pages, so it's a little lengthy. And now we're at the discussion. In discussing the use of psychics as a legitimate investigative tool, a few topics need to be discussed. First, does the utilization of psychics as an investigative tool work? And second, is the use as prevalent as the mainstream media would have the public believe? Both can be answered with the resounding no. Again, both can be answered with a resounding no. In reviewing success stories and success rates of psychic detectives, the results are not encouraging. Mainstream media is filled with entertaining stories of psychic success, but these stories seem to crumble pretty quickly when put under the microscope. Many of these success stories are nothing more than unsubstantiated boastings on the part of the psychic detectives, often claiming success on cases in which they were never involved. Many psychic hits are questionable at best. Psychic detectives generally only offer their assistance and their vision to cases receiving significant media coverage. This coverage gives them somewhat of an understanding of what is surrounding the investigation, and from their certain assumptions, and from there, certain assumptions are not hard to make. It is not a stretch to say the female homicide victim is murdered by her ex-boyfriend, or a missing child in Florida can be found near water. If and when these easy generalizations become true, the psychic and their supporters consider this a legitimate success story, even though nothing was provided that assisted law enforcement in any conceivable way. Give this, many of the reported success stories by mainstream media are largely suspect. Outside of mainstream media, nothing can be found in peer review, academic journals, or respected law enforcement publications showing psychics have ever been utilized in high-profile investigations with much success. The respondents who answered the surveys in the affirmative and left comments indicating a successful use of psychic detectives did not provide any contact information for further follow-up. No case can be verified in which a psychic unquestionably helped law enforcement make an arrest and gain a subsequent conviction. No case can be identified where a psychic has ever recovered a living missing person, and successfully returned him or her to his family and friends. Even success stories in the missing person category generally only concern the recovery of the missing person's body. The result of the survey seems to support the past research conducted in this field, though there does seem to be a lot of discrepancy in the reported success rate of psychic detectives. This discrepancy occurs between question 6 and question 12. Question 6 inquired of the respondents if information provided by a psychic was useful in situations where the investigator had solicited the use of a psychic themselves. 22.6% of the respondents answered in the affirmative. This in sharp contrast to the response to question 12, where the respondents were asked if they had any first-hand knowledge of a psychic being helpful or instrumental in an investigation. Question 12 was answered affirmatively with an abysmal 6.3%. While the exact reason for this discrepancy can probably not be fully explained, it most likely has to do more with the power of belief than with the actual performance of psychic detectives. Simply put, when the investigating officer believes in the use of psychics and or suggests the idea, the psychics are more likely to receive successful marks from law enforcement. The overall success rate of 6.3%, as reported by the survey's respondents, is another topic to discuss. Since psychics generally only offer assistance and tips in high-profile cases with vast amounts of media attention, they tend to come out in droves for these types of investigations, and the sheer number of psychic involvements can affect the overall success rate in a way that cannot be truly measured. Given the high-profile nature of the case, dozens, if not hundreds, of psychics will call law enforcement and other tips or assistance. If one happens to be right, the case will be considered a hit for the psychic, even if 100 other psychics were misses. This means the success rate of 6.3% could in fact be too high. And while it is hard to define what a chance level of success actually is, less than 6.3% is most likely worse than chance. Data also shows that psychic detectives are actually less successful working under their own conditions than they are in controlled conditions where they still fail to outperform controlled groups. Not only is a psychic detective's ability to successfully assist with criminal investigations exaggerated by mainstream media, but so is the frequency of use of law enforcement agencies. Of the 102 survey respondents, only 30 advised their agency had ever solicited the use of a psychic, though a higher number of respondents, 43, stated their agency had utilized useful resources to follow up on information provided by psychic detectives. Differences here generally occur because psychics often interject and often assist of their own volition or at the request of the victim's family, not at the behest of law enforcement. It is important to keep in mind psychics are most often solicited by the family, not law enforcement. And the relationship between the family and the psychic detective might provide the psychic with better and more reliable information than law enforcement is sometimes able to acquire. The psychic's ability to cultivate a close relationship with friends and family can produce legitimate investigative leads. While there is no solid data to support the use of psychics as a legitimate investigative tool, the decision of whether or not to utilize their services is not an easy one. While most law enforcement professionals put little stock in the use of psychics, in quotes, if it worked, wouldn't everyone do it? Unquote, or parentheses, sorry, not quotes, parentheses. Question. Some studies show as high as 3 out of 4 Americans believe in the paranormal. Shermer, 1997, page 17. This is a very, very good document. If you can go, like I said, look in my description. I put the link, and also in my chat, I put the link. This is very informative. It has so many different examples of tests that they have tried, and then the results. And it is this is an amazing document, very informative, and I do recommend this. Again, with anything else, do your own research. The contrast in opinions and beliefs of law enforcement and the general public pose a real problem for law enforcement entities. Law enforcement's agencies and officials are constantly worried about public relations and the public's perception of law enforcement, and with good reason. Law enforcement agencies rely greatly on public support and opinion to effectively perform their functions and evaluate their own performance. Unfortunately, the concern with public opinion can sometimes lead to decisions that are not helpful to the investigation and ultimately waste valuable time. And ultimately waste valuable monetary and manpower resources. The reality is the decision to utilize psychic detectives is almost an entirely political one. The truth is it is almost exclusively done to satisfy the victim's friends and family, not a gainer legitimate investigative leads. The mother of a missing child telling the news media local law enforcement is not doing all it can to find her son or daughter is a nightmare for any agency involved in such an important investigation. Not only does such negative media attention affect the agency, but such negative press can have a detrimental effect on the investigation as well if the detectives become sidetracked by the media frenzy. In such an instance, the decision to utilize psychic detectives is simply a lesser of two evils. Not only is there a chasm between public and law enforcement opinions in this area, but there's a variety of opinions among law enforcement professionals as to what policies to interact regarding the use of psychic detectives. Many feel every lead or tip should be scrutinized or investigated regardless of the source. While this is admirable in theory, it can consume vast amount of money and time and resources. Controversially, wait a minute, let me go back. It can consume a vast amount of time and resources. Controversially, some detectives feel psychics should not even be entertained as they have never provided any useful information. In discussing various policies and procedures among different agencies, the procedure implicated by the Orlando Police Department during the Jennifer Kesey and Michelle Parker investigations seems to be the most sound. The use of a psychic will not be solicited. However, if specific information is provided, it will be looked into regardless of the source. The focus on specific information effectively eliminates the majority of psychic tips since they are almost always vague and open to interpretation. And this policy works without excluding a specific type of source. However, there is one small issue that can arise from this policy. In a new investigation gathering a large amount of media attention, the public will most likely work well. If the victim's family chooses to convey with the media their feeling that the investigating agency is not doing enough, it is easy for the agency to show the vast amount of resources being utilized and to put the issue to rest. Unfortunately, the OPD policy will most likely not work with cold cases. Many cold cases have been looked at in years due to the lack of time and resources. Therefore, the agency cannot show it is doing everything in its manpower and may have to consider the family's request and entertain the use of a psychic detective. While there is no solid empirical evidence to suggest that psychic detectives are useful in solving homicides or missing person investigations, the decision to solicit, utilize, or entertain them is not an easy one. Each individual agency will ultimately have to make that decision based on its own experiences, ideas, and current public and or political climate. Lieutenant Jim Smithy has been in law enforcement for 12 years, beginning his career with the Seminole County Sheriff's Office in 2000 after graduating from Florida State University with a Bachelor of Science degree in criminology. He was assigned to the Seminole neighborhood policing for approximately 5 years, serving as a field training officer during that time frame. He is then transferred to the Major Crimes Unit, where he served for 3 years before being promoted to sergeant and returning to patrol. After approximately 1 year, he returned to investigations to supervise the Major Crimes Unit. Jim was promoted to lieutenant in October 2011 and currently serves as a South Region Commander in the Seminole Neighborhood Policing. And this is all the biography. And this is the document that we are reviewing. And again, I put all the information, the link in the chat, the links in my description. Please go do your own research. And again, the title, The Use of Psychics in Homicide and Missing Persons Investigation, William S. Smithy. I know this has been very long, lengthy, but I wanted to do this in part 1 and part 2. I also wanted to do this in a way that was non-biased. Whoops, let me turn that light back on. And again, this is not made for children. This is an adult channel. And I'm drinking coffee this morning. Holiday coffee mug. Warm coffee. And I'm smoking a cigarette, because this is an adult channel. Now, I wanted to go through some of my research. So before I come out and really want to give any kind of an opinion, I really think that I should be showing you why this is my personal opinion. And I can give you my research. And maybe that will help explain my point of view, where I'm coming from. Again, I am in no way, shape, or form coming out and trying to say that all psychics are fake. I do believe that there are real psychics that do have real psychic abilities, a gift. And I've seen and researched psychics that have used these gifts, and they have done amazing work. But like I stated before, whenever you start looking at social media and social media platforms, I really feel personally, and it's my opinion, that new laws need to be made to protect the victim, to protect the victim's family and their loved ones. Because there has been so much misinformation, false hopes, false accusations, and in my opinion, it is distracting from the actual case. I really feel that, in my opinion, if you're going to follow a case, if you're going to advocate, please use facts. It's that simple. Use facts. And be kind. Remember, these are real people. This is a real tragedy. This is not something that they can turn on and off like a movie. There's real people going through tragedies. And they are victims, and they have rights. And to every other channel that is standing up for the rights of victims, for their family, for their loved ones, that are calling out misinformation, false accusations, I want to thank you. You'll probably see me in your chats, because I have been going into the true crime, and I've been seeing a lot. And it's disheartening. It's heartbreaking. It's horrifying to see what happens once social media gets involved. Can social media be used as a very good tool? Absolutely. But can people use social media in a way that it's harmful? Yes, absolutely. So please use your platforms for good. And if you're monetized, you are going to grow by following the facts, by being respectful of the victims, of their families, of their loved ones. And like I stated yesterday, often it goes into the neighborhood and then into the community. Be respectful. They have rights. Be kind to one another. This is the holiday season coming up. Please be kind. And remember, it's not just one high-profile case of one missing child. There are thousands and thousands of missing children, thousands of missing teenagers, adults, and the elderly. And one missing person is one too many. And one family of a missing person is one family too many going through a tragedy. And their loved ones, the loved ones of a missing person, is loved ones going through one tragedy too many. Please be kind. Follow the facts. Help educate on this platform. And maybe you will be able to help with missing person cases in a way that is honorable, respectful, and kind. And until next time, have a beautiful day. The sun's coming in really bright. I couldn't move because puppy's right here. Sorry for the light. So until next time, you have a wonderful day. And then I'll be coming live and we'll be doing some reviewing of some of the psychics on this platform and what my overview is after reviewing them. Again, I want you to be kind, be respectful. Remember, the missing person is a victim. Their family is a victim. Their loved ones are a victim of a tragedy. Do not use a tragedy to profit from. That is so disgraceful. So disgraceful. And I know something deep down inside is telling you that it's wrong. And I cannot wait for laws to be passed to protect the missing, their families and their loved ones, in their neighborhood and their community. And if there's anything that I can do by using my platform to help bring awareness to this, I will continue to do that. Do I believe that all psychics are fake? No, I'm not saying that. I 100% do believe that there are a percentage, small, very small percentage, of psychics that are the real deal. They have real gifts, and they use them honorably, honestly, respectfully, and most times they do it so discreetly that unless they're mentioned in a article or on a news media, how they helped in a case, you never even know that they're doing what they're doing because they're using a gift that they have to do good. So if you do have a gift, or you think you have a gift, please watch part 1 and then this whole part 2 of how psychics in this document, how they took psychics and they used controlled study groups, and then they give you all the results. And this is using police departments, FBI. This is an amazing, amazing document. And like I said, I put the link in my chat to this document, and I put the link in my description below. So, no, I do not believe that all psychics are fake. But I do believe I have seen enough self-proclaimed psychics on social media interjecting themselves into missing persons cases and homicide cases that are active, ongoing investigations. And in my personal opinion, of course, my personal opinion only, I think it's wrong. I do not believe it should be done. And I do believe that there should be laws passed to more regulate social media platforms so that this does not continue to happen. So at that, I'm going to end. I hope you enjoyed part 1 and part 2. I hope it was informative. And as always, please do your own research. Before I come out and I state something, I want to know that I've done my research so that I can give my own personal opinion. And that's what I'm doing. I'm showing you how I formed my opinion. I want an informed opinion. I want to be as informed as possible. I want to research. And then I will come out and try to share that with you. Hopefully it's educational, and hopefully it will help bring awareness to what is happening in these social media platforms. So I'm going to end it. Remember, be respectful to these victims. Be respectful to their families. Be respectful to the loved ones. And if it eventually gets to the point where the community's involved, be respectful. None of them asked to be thrown in a spotlight. This started with one missing person. And then it involved the family, and then their loved ones, and then their neighborhood, and then their community. So please, allow them the privacy. Allow law enforcement to do their job. Maybe you are not hearing everything you think you should hear from law enforcement, but that doesn't mean law enforcement has to put everything out in the public. They don't have to. So be respectful. Follow the facts. Be kind to one another. And remember, it's the holidays. Smile. Be happy. Show a little light and a little love in this world. Until next time, bye-bye.